Okay, gang, so now that we've solved factoring and factoring completely, we're going to start solving quadratic equations by factoring. So you've never seen a quadratic equation before. What a quadratic equation is just takes a polynomial with a degree of 2 and turns it into an equation. A polynomial is an expression. Making it equal to something creates a quadratic equation. Quadratic equations have an x squared term. So it's the third type of equation that we've seen this year. We've seen linear and we've seen exponential. Linear is that y equals mx plus b. Exponential is the y equals ab to the x. Now we have an x squared, and you need to remember that that is always quadratic. So let's see what this winds up giving us. So solve the following like you would a linear equation. Take the square root at the end. Remember that the square root of any number results in one positive and one negative solution. Let's do the odds together. All right, so this is actually really easy, doesn't involve any factoring. I want to get the x squared term by itself, so I divide by 2. It gives me x squared equals 16. I want to get rid of the square, so I take the square root, and I get x equals 4 or negative 4. It has to be both. That 4 is what we call the principal square root. It was what you would think of right off the top of your head. But we have to keep in mind that negative 4 times negative 4 also equals 16. So we have two answers. And typically, when we have an x squared equation, you will get two answers. Sometimes they will end up being the same, but you should always start to solve for two answers in any quadratic equation. All right, let's look at number 3. So number 3, we have x squared minus 15 equals 66. Now, in order to solve this one, we want to solve again like a two-step equation. So we could start by adding 15 to both sides. We get x squared equals 6 plus 5 is 11, carry the 1, and 6 plus 2 is 8. So we get x squared equals 81. Then we get rid of the square by taking the square root. So we get x equals 9 or negative 9. Again, make sure you give those two answers. I've had kids on Regis exams in the past forget to give the negative answer and lose a whole point on a 2-point question for a very simple equation. Okay. Number 5. Now we have to solve this by factoring. So we have 4x squared plus 16 equals 52. I lied. We don't have to factor yet. Okay, so this is an easy one. Looks like a two-step equation. We're going to subtract 16 from both sides. We get 4x squared equals 36. Then we're going to divide by 4. So x squared equals 9. Last, we're going to take the square root. And we all know that the square root of 9 is 3. So this is 3 or negative 3. All right, so you're going to try the evens that we haven't done so far in that same way. Very, very simple, just like regular equations that you've done in the past. Just remember to do the square root and give two answers. All right, now to solve a quadratic equation by factoring, you're going to first transform the equation into standard form if necessary. That's ax squared, should I say ax squared, plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, second, you're going to factor that quadratic equation. Third, you're going to set each factor containing a variable equal to 0. And fourth, you're going to solve each of the resulting equations. So let's see what this looks like. This takes a little bit more skill. So here we have x squared minus 7x equals negative 10. I can't just start solving it because we have a term with an x squared and a term with an x. So we're going to set it equal to 0 by adding 10 to both sides. So I get x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Now, I have 10, and I need two numbers that are factors of 10 that have a sum of negative 7. So that's negative 5 and negative 2. So x squared minus 5x minus 2x plus 10 equals 0. I substituted the negative 5 and negative 2 for the negative 7. Then I can group. I get x times x minus 5 minus 2 times x minus 5. Because 2 times x minus 5 is going to give me that negative 2x plus 10. All equals 0. My common binomial is x minus 5. And my second binomial is x minus 2 equals 0. So now I have two equations to solve because I have two answers whenever I have a quadratic equation. So either x minus 5 equals 0 or x minus 2 equals 0. If I add 5 to both sides, I get x equals 5. If I add 2 to both sides, I get x equals 2. So my two solutions are x equals 5 or 2. Okay, so that wasn't too tricky, I hope. It uses the same idea of factoring that you've seen in the past, and then just solving a regular equation. Remember, you only do this if you're solving, not if it just asks you to factor. All right, number 9. So same idea, I just got to get it to standard form first. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. Then I want to bring this 16 to the side, so plus 16 equals 0. So now I have a factor of 16. I need the numbers that are factors of 16 that have a sum of negative 8, and that would be negative 4 and negative 4. So x squared minus 4x plus 16 equals 0. Group. Remember those two 4's replace the negative 8. In the first grouping, I can take out x, and I'm left with x minus 4, because x times x is x squared, and x times negative 4 is negative 4x. The second grouping, I can take out negative 4, which leaves me again with x minus 4, because 4 times x is 4x, and negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, equals 0. So my common binomial factor is x minus 4, and my second binomial is also x minus 4. So solving each of those would result in the same thing. So I really only have one answer, and that one answer is 4. And that's because that's what we call a perfect square trinomial. We result in only one solution as a result. So when we have it as having the same two factors, you only have to solve one of them for the solution. All right. Number 11, 2x squared plus 9x equals 18. Again, we want to set this equal to 0, so we're going to subtract that 18 from both sides. We got 2x squared plus 9x minus 18 equals 0. Now, 2, 9, and 18 don't have a common factor, so we have to start from here. We do 2 times negative 18, we get negative 36, and we need the factors of negative 36 that have a sum of 9. All right, so 36 is 6 and 6. That's not going to give us 9. 4 and 9 aren't going to give us 9. 12 and 3, if I do 12 minus 3, I get 9. So let's do 12 and negative 3. So we can write 2x squared plus 12x minus 3x replaces the 9x minus 18 equals 0. And group. From 2x squared plus 12x, I can take out 2x, resulting in x plus 6. From negative 3x minus 18, I can take out negative 3, resulting in also x plus 6, and that's always the goal. Those two should be the same. So I get x plus 6 times 2x minus 3 equals 0. And I have two equations to solve. So x plus 6 can equal 0, or 2x minus 3 can equal 0. If I subtract 6, x equals negative 6. And if I add 3, and then divide by 2, x equals 1.5. And that's okay. You can get a decimal answer. So my two solutions for number 11 are negative 6 and 1.5. So you guys are now going to complete the remaining evens. Take your time. This part is the more challenging part. I'll be around to come around to check on your work and make sure you're on the right track.